Subject 0451, the bloodied anomaly. The Zenthri research vessel Eminence of Clarity hovered silently above the unremarkable blue-green planet catalogued as XR3/21. The sentient species below called it Earth. Primitive, chaotic, and noisy. A Type 0 civilization, technologically adolescent. It should have warranted a routine observational scan and nothing more. But something about the transmissions intercepted from Earth triggered a curiosity in Dr. Vulzek. A xenopathologist of the 8th cycle, Vulzek had dissected over 700 species across 4 galactic arms. None had surprised him in decades. Until now. The humans had built crude spaceflight, launched metal coffins beyond their atmosphere, and shouted across the stars in all directions. One such coffin, a shuttle they called Ares 7, had been recovered during a covert sampling mission. Its crew of 5 now lay in sterile stasis aboard the ship's primary research dome. Vulzek hovered beside Subject 0451, a female identified as Commander Elena Morales. Her dark hair was cropped tight to her skull. Her physique was lean, hardened by gravity. The readouts showed redundant organs, dense musculature, and thermal variability far beyond any norm. Curious. But what truly intrigued him were the chemical markers in her bloodstream. Vulzek chirped a command. The surgical arms descended. A thin scalpel slit through Morales' forearm with precision. And then it happened. The incision opened, and from it, a flood of deep crimson liquid spilled out, thick and warm. For a second, Vulzek merely observed. Then his translator unit registered a biohazard alarm. The red substance lit up every danger protocol in the ship's database. The color red was a universal marker: toxicity, infection, venom, death. In all known evolutionary biology across 3 spiral arms, red pigmentation in circulatory fluid had never been seen in a healthy species. It was always a last-stage necrotic indicator. "Seal the dome," Vulzek screeched, backing away. Subject 0451 is hemorrhaging class 5 contagion. The surgical drones froze. Containment fields activated. The lab filled with warning pheromones and flashing lights as secondary researchers rushed in, only to recoil in similar horror. The red continued to drip from Morales' arm, slowly pooling on the exam slab. Sensors began to analyze it, but the data made no sense. Iron-based oxygen transport. Hemoglobin. A molecular structure built around metal. This is not contamination," whispered Assistant Krell, his cilia quivering. "This is natural." Vulzek refused to believe it. He ran the scans again. Confirmed them. "They move oxygen with iron in their blood," he muttered. "It explains the pigment. Iron oxide. Rust. But..." Krell hesitated. "That means it's not poison. It's design." The implications hit like a gravitational wave. "That red fluid," said Vulzek slowly, "is not a symptom. It's the system." Everyone in the room froze. "Red is their default state," Vulzek added, voice low with disbelief. "They leak warning colors when wounded. They live surrounded by the signal of pain. And it does not stop them." Silence descended over the lab. The puddle of red still glistened beneath the subject, viscous and terrifying. Morales remained unconscious, unaware of the chaos she had caused. A council meeting was called within the hour. The humans were declared biological anomalies and placed under full quarantine. The label affixed to them was whispered through the ship like a myth reborn: Category E, existential hazard. Later, in the privacy of his quarters, Vulzek could not stop replaying the moment in his mind. The color, the density, the impossible calm on the subject's face even as she bled. He accessed the neurologs, scanning human texts and symbols. So many references to blood. In war. In art. In stories. They didn't fear the red. They celebrated it. What kind of species marked their most sacred rituals with fluid that screamed danger to every other life form? With a slow, clicking breath, Vulzek opened a new research file. Title: The Bloodied Anomaly. Subheading: Preliminary Observations on Humanity's Weaponized Physiology. He paused, then added a final note. "I believe we have made a grave mistake. We did not discover them. They allowed us to find the red curse. The stasis lab aboard the Eminence of Clarity remained sealed behind Level 7 containment fields. Subject 0451, Commander Elena Morales, had been stabilized. Her wound was sealed. The red fluid no longer flowed. But it didn't matter. The damage had already been done. Dr. Volzek stood behind a transparent shield, his skin membranes pale with stress. Across the chamber, 4 human bodies lay motionless under containment fields. Every instrument pointed to life. Strong vitals. Resilient organ function. And inside each of them, gallons of that same horrifying substance. Red. The color haunted Volzek's dreams now. He saw it pulsing behind his eyes when he blinked. He smelled it in the filtration vents, even though the lab had been purged twice. It was not just a fluid, it was a symbol. A warning written into flesh. Have you ever seen anything like this? Volzek asked his assistant, Krell, as they reviewed tissue scans. Krell hesitated. Not in any of the 70,000 surveyed species. Not even among the shadow parasites of the Trian wastes. Red fluid in an organism is an evolutionary impossibility. Unless, Volzek said slowly, they evolved in the one place we never considered, within danger itself. He expanded the holoscreen. The human cardiovascular system flickered into view. Arteries, veins, chambers, and pumps. But the blood was iron-rich. It bonded to oxygen with alarming efficiency. It carried nutrients under pressure. And more importantly, it contained cells designed to attack. Observe this, Krell said, zooming into the bloodstream. Their immune response. These cells, macrophages, neutrophils, they consume threats like predators. They're not defensive, Volzek whispered. They're aggressive. Alien species typically relied on passive biological protection, antimicrobial fields, energy membranes, or chemical deterrents. But humans had evolved a war inside their veins. More scans followed. Their digestive system, hyperacidic, able to dissolve raw meat, bone, even fragments of metal. Their skin, porous, self-healing. Their muscular system, designed for rapid bursts of motion and sustained endurance. Their brain, layered in redundancy and emotional volatility. Everything about the human body screamed one word: survivor. That night, Volzek convened a private session of the Xenomedical Council. 5 other species participated via neural link. Holographic images of human biology rotated mid-air, annotated with warning symbols. They consume animal tissue daily, Volzek began. They call it meat. Entire industries revolve around killing and disassembling other creatures. They do it not only for nutrition, but for tradition. One counselor recoiled. Cannibalistic. No, Volzek corrected. Selective predation. They build pens to hold other life. Then they process it. The chamber fell silent. Counselor Thyra, of the Gorlari Mind Nest, spoke next. Are you suggesting sapient predators? Yes, Volzek said. And more. He called up a series of psychological profiles. Despite their biology, humans are social pack creatures. They form bonds, hierarchies, and civilizations. They cooperate, but only when it suits their needs. And when threatened, they organize with terrifying efficiency. He showed footage of human conflict. Wars. Riots. Mass evacuations. Soldiers pulling wounded comrades while under fire. They fear death. And yet, they charge toward it if the reason is sufficient. Their blood is not their weakness. It is their banner. Krell added softly, they write songs about it. The council dissolved into nervous murmurs. Then what do you recommend? Thyra asked. Volzek didn't answer immediately. He looked once more at Subject 0451's vitals. She was healing. Fast. Her cells were active, repairing the incision like nothing had happened. They are not specimens, he finally said. They are weapons, designed by their environment to master pain, consume fear, and overcome weakness. He issued a recommendation. No further dissection. No neural probing. Full biological quarantine. Request an existential risk classification upgrade for Homo sapiens. The vote was unanimous. The humans would not be studied. They would be observed, at a distance. But even as the meeting ended, Vulzek couldn't look away from the screen. His gaze returned to the blood, to the rich, red swirl of life and fury trapped beneath glass. Was it madness to fear a color? Maybe. Or maybe it was survival. One woke up. The eminence of clarity slept in low orbit, cloaked from human detection. Its interior buzzed with containment fields, running diagnostics, and the faint clicking of Zenthary limbs pacing in quiet terror. In the quarantine dome, Subject 0451 stirred. The containment algorithms didn't react at first. Her neural activity was increasing, standard post-stasis fluctuation. But then her heart rate spiked, pupils dilated, and oxygen demand surged. She was waking up. Commander Elena Morales' first sensation was cold metal beneath her. Her next was pain, an old ache in her shoulder, and a new sting on her arm. She opened her eyes and gasped at the blinding artificial light overhead. Where was she? The last thing she remembered was a systems failure aboard Ares 7, the blaring alarms, and a flash of white. She'd assumed death. This was not death. A strange ceiling. Unfamiliar gravity. No sound but the rhythmic hum of distant machinery. The air was sterile, dry, and oddly sweet. Then she saw it, a faint red line across her forearm. Recently healed. Surgical. Her training took over. Observe. Evaluate. Act. She sat up slowly, muscles tight but responsive. Her heart hammered. Around her, she saw 4 more pods, her crew. Unconscious. Alive, but unresponsive. She swung her legs down. The moment her feet touched the floor, alarms triggered. The containment dome flared with amber lights. A voice echoed from unseen speakers, a high-pitched language that grated against her skull. Incomprehensible. Not synthetic. Alien. Elena didn't wait. She scanned the room, tall glass walls, control panels glowing with unknown symbols, drones perched in the corners like mechanical spiders. No obvious exits. No weapons. Her eyes landed on a surgical tool tray. She moved fast. In seconds, she held a thin scalpel in her hand. She crouched behind a diagnostics console just as the drone stirred and descended. A surgical assistant drone extended an injector arm. Non-lethal, most likely. Tranquilizer. Standard protocol for escaping specimens. But Morales was no specimen. She lunged. The scalpel pierced a soft seam beneath the drone's optical cluster. Sparks flew. It whined, swerved erratically, and collapsed to the floor with a hiss. Above, across the ship, Dr. Vulzek froze as the alert echoed through the corridors. Subject 0451 has achieved full consciousness, barked Krell, his skin blanched to a death-pale hue. She has disabled drone Theta. No. No, 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 Vulzek whispered. They hadn't expected her to wake. Not so soon. Her species' resilience was theoretical. Until now. She is bleeding again, Krell said. Minimal. From the palm. Red. A dread silence filled the control room. She bleeds and still attacks, Vulzek said softly. Back in the dome, Elena worked fast. The alien interface was incomprehensible, but logic was universal. The console had symbols, some blinking, some constant. She touched what looked like a power symbol, then a sequence of icons. The translation module kicked in. A robotic voice stuttered, "OW, do not move. You are contained. Biohazard risk. Red fluid incompatible with sterile protocol." She stared at the speaker. "My blood is the problem." No response. "Then you're scared of it," she muttered. "Good." She looked into the nearest surveillance lens and raised her hand. A drop of blood glistened on her skin. "Let me say this clearly," she said. "If you're afraid of what's inside me, you should be." Across the ship, watchers stared in horror. Her voice was filtered through crude translation, yet the message was unmistakable. She wasn't afraid. She was warning them. Vulzek felt it in his bones, the weight of a new truth. "They endure pain like it's routine," he said aloud. "They weaponize fear. Even injured, they resist. And she communicates in defiance." Orders? Krell asked nervously. Isolate her. Do not engage. Do nothing to provoke her further. But it was too late. Elena reached the side of the second pod. Lieutenant Harrow. Still alive, heart rate steady. She had to wake them, one by one. Get them up. Get out. As the dome locked down, emergency protocols activated ship-wide. For the first time in Zenthri history, a captured species was deemed too dangerous to contain. One had woken up. And the rest would follow. The Crimson Revelation. Elena Morales stood at the center of the Zenthri vessel's nerve hub, her eyes locked on the pulsating interface of alien controls. Behind her, Lieutenant Harrow and Specialist Lin had just been revived. Both were dazed, groggy, but alive. And now, awake enough to fight. The trio moved quickly through the corridors, ducking automated drones and skimming data from any panel they could access. The layout of the ship was confusing, organic in some places, metallic in others. But the rules of engineering still applied. Power flowed to control, and control led to communications. Just tell me we can talk to Earth, Harrow muttered, checking the weight of a captured alien stun baton. We can, Elena said. But I don't think they're ready to hear what we've learned. In the ship's central observation gallery, a crisis meeting was in progress. Dr. Vulzek stood at the holotable, surrounded by senior xenologists and strategic analysts. Suspended in the center of the room, a rotating 3D model of a human cell. Enlarged 1,000-fold, its crimson nucleus pulsed like a warning light. They bleed as a reflex, not as a death sign, Vulzek said. They do not weaken under pain, they strengthen. Adrenal response drives their aggression. Their immune system is not passive, it is predatory. And their minds. He brought up psychological files gathered from cultural scans, war memorials, martial chants, scenes of violence and triumph, all stitched with one motif. Blood. They treat injury as inevitability. They don't hide from it. They make it sacred. They bleed, said Counselor Thyra, and yet they charge into battle? Yes, Vulzek confirmed. Their red is not a surrender. It is a declaration. He pulled up the most recent footage, Elena staring into the lens, blood running down her palm, daring the entire ship. If you're afraid of what's inside me, you should be. Gasps rippled through the room. A few tentacles curled in distress. Others simply froze in silence. She knew, whispered Krell. She knew we were watching. She used her own biology as a weapon of fear. The truth settled over them like a dark nebula. Humans had not merely adapted to hardship. They had evolved through it. And in doing so, they had made suffering a fuel source. In the comms bay, Elena accessed a crude translation program. A few phrases worked. Enough to patch together a basic signal to Earth. Static flared. Then, a voice. This is ISMC control. Identify. Elena Morales. Commander. Ares 7. We're alive, but not alone. Hostiles. No, observers. We've been studied. Ship matches no known signature. Biological containment breached. A pause. Commander Morales, say again? Did you say observers? I said they're watching us. And they're afraid. Back in the observation gallery, a red light blinked. The humans had contacted their home world. They've initiated relay transmission, Krell said. Vulzek nodded grimly. Then it is already too late to pretend we weren't here. He walked slowly to the central console and entered a final command. A ship-wide protocol broadcast across the fleet. Observation only. No contact. Containment impossible. The crew watched Elena and her people move through the halls on surveillance feeds. They weren't panicked. They weren't fleeing. They were calculating, thinking, preparing. What are your final recommendations? Asked Thyra. Vulzek stared at the red trail left on the console where Elena had cut herself to disrupt a sensor panel. They are dangerous, he said. But not because of their blood. It is not the color that matters. It is the meaning. He leaned forward, voice steady. The red is not a curse. It is a covenant. To suffer, to rise, and to fight again. The ship's council voted unanimously. Earth was to be placed under Eclipse Protocol, No interference, no diplomacy, no abduction. Just distance. Silent satellites in orbit. Long-range monitoring. Never engage. Back in the docking bay, Elena and her revived crew discovered an escape pod. With the ship in partial lockdown and the aliens avoiding direct conflict, they launched uncontested. As Earth's blue horizon grew closer, Harrow asked the question they were all thinking. Why didn't they stop us? Elena looked at the red bandage on her arm, then out into the stars. Because they finally understood, she said. Understood what? She smiled grimly. That blood isn't our weakness. It's our proof. We survive anything. Final line. In their eyes, we were monsters painted in red. But in truth, we were just human, and that was enough to terrify the stars.